Hello and welcome. I am Gimba Umar. Tonight, federal government warns foreign missions in Nigeria against violation of rules of diplomatic communication, especially in issuance of travel advisories. President Muhammadu Buhari joins other world leaders for the 6th Tokyo International African Development in Nairobi, Kenya. And Vice President Osinbajo makes case for leadership driven by trust as he kickstarts the 25th anniversary of the creation of Delta State. And violence erupts in Zimbabwe after police fire tear gas at opposition leaders and hundreds of demonstrators there.
On Business News tonight, Central Bank of Nigeria directs commercial lenders to scrutinize customers' accounts to prevent illegal money transfers.
On sports news tonight, world champion Wellington Jigere likely to miss 2016 Scrabble Championship in France over denied visa.
Hello, I'm Ibrahim Adra, and from Abuja, participants at the Forum on Good Governance renew call for the establishment of state police.
We begin tonight with what seems a riot act to heads of foreign missions in Nigeria, cautioning against violation of the provision of the Vienna Convention regarding channels of communication in countries of the mission. The Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Olusola Enikolaye, says that some foreign diplomats have formed the culture of breaking the rules, laws and channels of communication without recourse to the ministry. He also condemned some travel advisory by diplomats, which he says undermines the gains and efforts of the federal government. Our correspondent, Omelogo Nadi, reports.
This is the first meeting between the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Olusola Enikolaye, and members of the Diplomatic Corps in Nigeria, aimed at presenting federal government's tripartite focus of security, the economy and anti-corruption.
These three priorities are linked because once you get the economy right, some of the root causes of disaffection and dislocation and terrorism will have been addressed.
The Permanent Secretary took the opportunity to warn the heads of mission against the breach of communication channel, which he termed unorthodox communication with different levels of government, contrary to the Vienna Convention on Communication.
Some missions are in the habit of going above the Minister of Foreign Affairs in seeking audiences and engagement with governments at even higher levels. I need not stress that this is not what we know as diplomats. It's clearly in violation of the relevant provision of the Vienna Convention. The Minister of Foreign Affairs remains the channel of communication between diplomatic community and host governments.
He expresses concerns about the travel advisory given by some countries by their heads of mission, which often paints an exaggerated picture of the security situation in Nigeria.
Travel advisories, which have tended to undermine some of the gains and efforts that government has made in tackling the challenge of security and the economy. While I appreciate the domestic requirement for travel advisories in many of our countries, we urge that such advisories be based on facts rather than an attempt to sensationalize and make it look as if the entire country, from the north to the south to the east to southwest, is no longer a place to live in.
Also of concern by some of the diplomats is a recent ban on some items which they say limits trade between their countries and Nigeria. But the Permanent Secretary says the decision to restrict the importation of some items are made by the federal government to protect and spur local manufacturing. Omelogo Nadi, Channels Television News.
The president has left Nigeria to join 35 other African leaders attending this year's International Conference on African Development in Nairobi, Kenya. The summit, holding this weekend, is co-organized by Government of Japan, the United Nations Office of the Special Advisor on Africa, the United Nations Development Programme, the African Union and the World Bank. The event, which is the 6th in the series and the first to hold in Africa since it began in 1993, focuses on promoting structural economic transformation through diversification and industrialization. It is also aimed at ensuring a resilient health system for quality life and social stability for shared prosperity. On the sidelines of the conference, the President will also hold a bilateral meeting with the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. For any state to achieve meaningful development and prosperity, truth must underpin every action of its leaders. This is according to the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, who was speaking at the opening of a two-day Economic and Investment Summit organized by the Delta State government. The Vice President also used the platform to appeal to the Niger Delta militants to end the violence for development to take place. The summit is part of the activities to mark the 25th anniversary of the creation of the state.
Because these are
gathered here are participants at the Delta State Economic and Investment Summit. They are here to share opinions on how to foster and sustain socio-economic growth and development of the state.
what has happened in the past few years. You'll understand.
Declaring open the two-day summit, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, highlights the need to ensure that the nation's economy is built to adapt to global, social and technological trends. He also identifies trust as a fundamental principle that can improve relations between leaders and followers in Nigeria.
The truth of the matter is that we cannot truly lead people, especially in difficult economic times, where we are projecting an economic future purely based on trust, if the people cannot trust the leadership. So that huge trust deficit creates a problem.
The summit, which is part of activities marking the 25th anniversary of the state's creation, attracts business executives, investors and top government officials, including some members of the Federal Executive Council.
We now live in a digital world.
Host Governor Mr. Ifeanyi Okowa reiterates the need to build a diversified economy that is built in public-private partnerships. He also shares the vision of the state's recently launched Smart Agenda.
Smart Agenda embodies policies, programs and initiatives to aggressively develop the non-oil sector, create wealth, raise entrepreneurial leaders, reduce the worrisome level of youth unemployment, drive rapid infrastructural development and ensure and sustain inclusive growth and sustainable development.
With the theme Bridging the Investment Gap, participants at the summit are shown initiatives aimed at achieving this objective. With clear-cut ideas and what strategies will be adopted to achieve economic reforms in Delta State, it remains to be seen how these plans will be implemented by the state authorities.
It's been a week-long brainstorming session on various national issues at the 56th Annual General Conference of the Nigeria Bar Association in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital. The event, which brought together thousands of participants, including lawyers, judges and senior advocates of Nigeria, with some governors and other government officials in attendance, had as its theme democracy and economic development. Our correspondent Emmanuel Ray reports.
More dignitaries arrived at the venue of the NBA conference in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. After several days of deliberations on crucial national issues, it's time for the presentation of the communique and change in the leadership of the association. But first, the outgoing members of the National Executive of the Association get set to present a set of recommendations arrived at during the event.
Agencies called upon to continue to improve upon the process of appointment of judges in order to ensure that only the best are appointed as judges. If the report from the NBA indicts any lawyers, then the LPDC will be called upon to deal with such lawyers.
Then a motion is moved for the change in leadership of the association.
And having regard to the fact that they have worked
very superlative. I am privileged to move this out to affirm that the lifespan of this administration has come to an end, and for the President to swear in the incoming.
Time now for the change in battle. The new president delivers key points of his administration's program.
Undoubtedly, the task ahead are odious. In the course of my campaigns, I pledged to put in my sincere best efforts. I'm sure with your continued support and with the help of Almighty God, we will succeed. Let me therefore reaffirm my commitment to work assiduously to pursue our programs and implement our campaign promises in line with our Constitution. We'll do this work collectively with other elected national officers with high sense of responsibility, honesty and integrity.
After over 5 days of intense deliberations and over 27 sessions on pressing national issues, the 56th Annual General Conference of the NBA has come to an end. But the recommendations made here, the association expects will form a guide for national development. Emmanuel Ere, Channels Television News.
And joining me now on the news at 10 is a legal practitioner, Mr. Wahab Shito, to look at the NBA conference and the deliberations that went down there. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on the news at 10 at this time. Now, drawing from the just concluded NBA, we just watched that on television now. What is the most crucial agenda for the lawyers, do you suppose, today?
Well, for me, the most crucial agenda for lawyers is for us to key into the new agenda of the president-elect, A.B. Mahmoud, who has just been sworn in, which is encapsulated in his vision titled A Brave New Bar. And that vision is all embracing in that it will arrest declining ethical and professional standards in the profession, declining quality of legal education, loss of confidence in the legal profession, and the phenomenal growth of the rate of lawyers. And that vision, if you look at it, which he articulated in the conference, and I had the benefit of listening to him, is captured by three main areas. One, emphasis on representation. Lawyers must now begin, we must now position ourselves in such a way that we effectively represent the bar. Regulation, whether we need to develop a new regulatory framework or, be content with the existing regulatory framework in order to, again, we also need to focus on public interest, litigation. Lawyers must now speak out against corruption. Lawyers must speak out against impunity. Lawyers must speak out against declining professional standards. And if you look at the theme of the conference, which is very, very critical, democracy and economic development, lawyers must be concerned about the developmental process, about how to deepen our democracy. We have certain fundamentals of the democratic tradition: respect for the rule of law, respect for constitutionalism, respect for fundamental rights, zero tolerance for corruption. All of this.
Let me just hold your thoughts for a minute or two. We're going to go on a very quick break, and when we come back on the news at 10, the NLC president says that autonomy for the judiciary is the only guarantee for success in the anti-corruption fight. Plus, we'll continue with our discussions on the outcome of the NBA meeting. Join us again.